Let's get hyped, people. It's another chance to play Raditz. According to Bandai Namco and Toei, they've just subtly dropped a new Budokai Tenkaichi game. Although they've technically not said it's Budokai Tenkaichi 4,
It's basically Budokai Tenkaichi 4.
the last time I remember playing that game was on the Wii in 2007, and that's only because I bought a copy of Tenkaichi 3 for 10 quid. But honestly, my favorite Tenkaichi is Tenkaichi 2, because I was able to level Raditz up to level 65, and basically trounce Piccolo within 2 seconds. Ah yes, my boy felt very cathartic that day. But in any case, they've announced a teaser trailer, and showed this really pretty looking promo of Goku going Super Saiyan Blue, not Ultra Instinct just yet, and giving a basic showcase about what the game looks like. And it pretty much looks like a Tenkaichi game from all of the stuff that you've seen, because honestly, I'm not going to bother you showing you the trailer, so why do I need to show it to you again, and me risking the ban hammer? I just want to give you my thoughts about what this game could be. Okay, why do we need a new Budokai Tenkaichi game? Surely Dragon Ball FighterZ fits the roster in terms of a Dragon Ball game that you can pick up and play? Well, I don't think so anymore. I remember going to when they were showcasing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot up at the Richmond headquarters of Bandai, and they were sort of going down their roadmap about what to expect for Dragon Ball video games. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot would be the RPG element, Xenoverse would be the hybrid between RPG and fighting, and FighterZ would be its core fighting game. I think because of the popularity of FighterZ, they've realized that it's become really super niche and super elite. It's an esports game now. It's at EVO every year now. It's getting more and more popular. It's known for basically being an elite tournament game. A little bit too professional and a little bit too inaccessible for new players, because if you're playing it online, you're going to get trounced. I actually remember playing it with Lanny on stream, and Lanny would complain immensely about the fact I was just button mashing and stuff, and sometimes I'd be hitting the PS4 home button and completely ruining the flow. My brother, Lanny, they'd accuse me of being button mashers, so FighterZ, it's not for me, although the story element is kind of cool. Xenoverse, it's not really a game in terms of core fighting. There are some fighting elements to it, there are techniques and stuff. It's mainly there for you to have a custom character, it's got a story element, and it's somewhat accessible and gives you a lot of lore and quests and stuff to do. So there's extracurricular activities for you to partake in outside of the core fighting principle. And of course, Kakarot there, it's mainly for story, with some fighting elements in there for good measure. So it's more RPG, and Xenoverse is less RPG. So I think that the new Budokai Tenkaichi game could be something that is a bit more of a casual pick up and play fighting game. Something where you don't really need to have too much skills right from the get-go, easy to pick up, but maybe somewhat challenging to master. Because that's what Budokai Tenkaichi was all about. The story element wasn't the main thing. It was mainly there to have a good experience in terms of fighting, and it was relatively easy to play. I remember playing it. I'm not much of a fighting game expert, and I found it quite fun. I was able to complete the game, so it was somewhat on a lower level, because FighterZ has just gone completely stratospheric in terms of the difficulty level and the learning curve. So I think the Budokai one is a lot more somewhat beginner friendly, and also it's going to be a place where you can have so many characters. FighterZ has sort of settled around about 30, maybe 35 characters. I've not been really keeping up with it. Still missing on Raditz, quite frankly, and that's an absolute shame. But Budokai Tenkaichi was known for having loads of characters, 60 characters, 70 characters, 80 characters. The fact that you could have a random Frieza soldier who basically just shouted, "Ah, Lord Frieza!" and he makes it in the game. Many of the characters were mainly palette swaps who had the same techniques and whatnot for multiple sets of characters. But either way, you had a skin. So you could play as just that random character that you saw one time, or you could play as that random version of Vegeta. The whole point of Budokai Tenkaichi was mainly for the fact that you could play loads and loads of different characters. That's one of its selling points. You can have 60 characters. In loads of Tenkaichi mods, you can have even more characters. So there could be a really good chance of there being multiple characters from the manga universe too. So even though you may not get the likes of Moro, Granola, Mirrorus, and what have you in FighterZ, for example, you may get those types of characters in a Budokai Tenkaichi game, because it'll be somewhat accessible. It's mainly there to show the diverse range of Dragon Ball characters and you playing as that character who may not make it into FighterZ, because in FighterZ, those characters all have mostly their own mechanics. Maybe they share some things in basic terms of size and agility and what have you, but they do have some nuances that makes them unique characters. Tenkaichi is a lot more relaxed in that regard. That this is going to be a game where it's going to have loads of characters, 100 plus, I reckon. A chance to have the likes of Moro, Granola, those kind of characters. You can have the heaters in there with their own unique things. You can have Gas from the Dragon Ball Super manga with extra transformations thrown in. And with this particular engine, yes, I know that the screenshots that SLO plays used for this particular example in the tweet, they're a little bit compressed, but it gives you the general idea that this is the type of style that they're going for the 3D models. And they're really, really good. FighterZ proved that you can make 3D models in video games look like 2D, and very, very good as well. And this is a little bit smoother, but they are getting better in translating Dragon Ball models into 3D. And yes, of course, you could talk about Dragon Ball Super Superhero, but the fact is, though, this is a video game. Everyone's going to expect that it's going to be 3D models. And yes, it's 2.5D kinda for FighterZ. It kind of switches in between the two. This is strictly 3D. And the progression from this and Xenoverse is light years ahead. We may not be getting a Xenoverse 3, but we're going to be getting a Budokai Tenkaichi 4. And quite frankly, I think people will take that because the last game came out like nearly 20 years ago at this point. This is a very long time. It may not be called Budokai Tenkaichi 4. It may just be a brand new Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, or just Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi. We don't know. Most likely they'll probably call it 4 because it's marketable, everyone knows it. They really didn't need to do much. All they had to do was just drop the trailer and boom, everyone's going to be talking about it. Bandai really played a good strategy in terms of its marketing. They barely had to do anything. Bandai, quite frankly, are absolutely on a roll with getting new Dragon Ball fans into the franchise. The fact they partnered with Fortnite and Epic Games to get Goku, Vegeta, Bulma, Gohan, Videl, all those characters into the game, and people are starting to figure out what Dragon Ball is. Piccolo, although they have some very questionable weapons, the fact they are in the game and people are getting into it, brand new younger fans, including my nephews, that's a really good idea. Bandai are on it. And they're on it here because they're bringing back the older generation who grew up on Budokai Tenkaichi. And this is an absolute genius masterstroke of a PR move. Use Budokai Tenkaichi. They could have called it something else. They could have called this a brand new name for Dragon Ball, but of course that wouldn't sell as well because it's a brand new thing and people don't like new things. Give them a fourth iteration of a game and a franchise they grew up with as a child and they'll come swarming. This is going to reinvigorate the franchise. And it looks great from what we've seen. Yes, it's a teaser trailer. There are a lot more things that could be seen. A lot of things could be changing, and we might not get the full hardcore experience of what we expect for a sequel to Tenkaichi 3. But the fact it's here, I just want to get on the blur and tell you, I'm excited for this. And I don't really get hype about Dragon Ball fighting games because I suck at them. But I'm really excited to see what they can do. And if they have my boy Raditz in here, I will be buying this game. Even though I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, I hope it gets a PC port, but probably not. This is going to be a more casual console experience, something that the beginner players can actually get into and then master the craft and have the nuances. It can have some story elements, but this is going to be the lower level sector, and then you can maybe branch out to Xenoverse or FighterZ, or you can get all of the games. That's what Bandai would ideally like you to do. There's going to be DLC for this. There's going to be instant recognition. You may get a Switch port because Xenoverse and FighterZ got Switch ports and they did very, very well. So it may come to Switch or the Switch Pro, whatever the sequel will be. But I'm excited for this. It's going to be a really good experience and it just looks really good. Bandai are putting in a lot of effort for this and hopefully we'll see this and more promotional stuff coming later in the year. And I think just as well too, because Dragon Ball has been a little bit dry lately. This has definitely whetted people's appetites. Let me know in the comments what you think about this, and I shall see you around for the next video. And by the way, can you tell I'm excited about this?